High Desert State Prison, located in Lassen County, California, would first open its doors in 1995 and today houses over 3,100 minimum, medium, and max security custody inmates. On January 27, 2020, on the facility's D yard at approximately 2:29 p.m., staff would observe inmates Jose Castillo and Victor Zapien attacking fellow inmate Richard Prieto. And although staff would immediately respond by issuing a warning shot and using chemical agents to stop the attack, Prieto had already suffered multiple stab wounds to his chest, back, head, and neck. And although staff would again give life-saving measures to another inmate who had been brutally attacked, Prieto would be pronounced deceased at 3:02 p.m.
The Stanislaus County Sheriff's Department is reviving its gang unit this summer. The move comes on the heels of 2 deadly gang-related shootings over the weekend. KCRA 3's Janet O live in Modesto with why the department's stepping up its fight against gangs now.
Well, the department recently hired 16 new deputies with more manpower. The gang unit will once again be focusing on enforcement and prevention. Neighbors in South Modesto say gang problems have become everyone's problems.
Gangs are getting really bad around here. I mean, they're targeting anybody. It's not just gangs against gangs.
David Kunkel says he and his family are afraid to go out at night, afraid to get to know the people around them.
We got a lot of grandkids and stuff, and yeah, we hear a lot of gunshots, gang activity all through Modesto. South Modesto is really bad.
It was here at this intersection a fight broke out Friday night, leaving 1 man dead and an innocent bystander injured. In West Modesto, another gang-related shooting at a birthday party.
Everybody's scared over here, me, and the neighbors over there, all this street.
To rebuild a gang unit from the ground up.
Sergeant Anthony Bajarin says budget cuts forced gang unit members back on the streets to do routine patrol work. Now with 16 deputy vacancies filled, the gang unit will be back in full swing by July. Bajarin says it's important for the gang unit to start by rebuilding relationships with known gang members.
When you build these relationships, it kind of gives you an idea of where you need to start your investigation.
But Bajarin says one of the biggest impacts the gang unit has is working on prevention with at-risk youth.
There's only so much you can do by taking a guy and putting him in jail, putting him in prison.
Now, in addition to the 16 deputies that were recently hired, the department is looking to recruit another 10 deputies in the summer to fill vacancies. Reporting live in Modesto, Janet O, KCRA 3 reports.
Janet, 38 people arrested and 21 guns seized.
Those are the results of a multi-agency gang investigation involving Modesto Police, the CHP, and the Department of Justice. Now, we first told you about the bust yesterday. The investigation, dubbed Operation Red Desert, started last year when investigators say they started to see an uptick in violence. They discovered a connection with the Nuestra Familia prison gang and the Norteno street gang. Officials say local street gang members were carrying out the orders of high-ranking prison gang members.
These gang members will go around and case the neighborhoods, find targets of families who are at work or at school and break into their house stealing jewelry, prescription pills to sell later.
Much more to come on this. Tonight at 5, we're going to hear from people who say their neighborhoods have been impacted by recent crime and what they think about the recent raid.
95% of inmates serving time in California prisons will at some point be released. 2/3 will reoffend and be back in prison within 3 years.
But now there's a push within the prison system to change that, and the solution could be found more than 5,000 miles away. Our Itai Hod joins us now with that story. Itai.
Good evening, guys. Yeah, until the 90s, Norway ran its prison system much like the U.S. with little success. The recidivism rates were at about 70%. But then the Norwegian Correctional Service decided to try something different, inject more humanity into their prisons. It seems to be working. The recidivism rates dropped from 70 to 20%. Now prisons around the world are sending officials to Scandinavia to see how it can be adapted in their facilities. One of those prisons is Salinas Valley, a level 4 maximum security prison, about 3 hours south of San Francisco.
We do have a lot of violence on this yard. fights, batteries. Matter of fact, we had a murder in that housing just a month and a half ago. They did CPR on a guy right out here in the yard, and he was pronounced dead.
There isn't much Ed Borla hasn't seen in his 25 years in California's criminal justice system. First as a corrections officer, and now as the deputy chief warden at Salinas Valley State Prison. As the second in command here, he's in charge of about 3,000 inmates. A level 4 maximum security prison, Salinas houses some of the state's most violent offenders, including rapists and murderers. But these days, it's leading the way when it comes to prison reform.
Inmates come back in multiple times, revolving door. So we got to end that.
I was worried about you.
For decades, the American prison system has been focused on punishment and deterrence. But now, Borla says, it's going through a sea change.
I forget when it was, the 80s, when we did lock them all up and throw away the key. And then over time, we learned that that wasn't working.
While the U.S. has 5% of the world's population, it has 25% of its prisoners. The cost to taxpayers, $80 billion a year, which is why Borla and his team are testing out an approach used in Norway, where the recidivism or relapse rate is at 20%, compared to about 75% in the U.S.
We're a pilot program for it, and it's just basically inserting humanity into the prison system.
The idea is simple. The punishment should be the loss of freedom, not the loss of dignity. One of the biggest changes, addressing prisoners by their names rather than their number. Guards here also make a point to get to know them better, playing board games and taking them on long walks.
This is the living room for the inmates.
It's still a far cry from the Norwegian model, where inmates live in cells that have been described as dorms, and prisons have state-of-the-art amenities.
I wish I fly like a bird.
Including a recording studio. There are no plans for anything like that here anytime soon. The program is still in its infancy. For now, Borla and his team are focusing on what they can do with the little they have, adding more classes and activities.
Put your hands together.
The prison says it's already seeing a decline in one key measure, attempted suicides.
Namaste.
More importantly, prisoners say they've noticed a difference. Terrence Ford is here for an armed carjacking, which landed him in prison for 26 years to life. He says the new approach has given him something you'd be hard-pressed to find in a maximum security prison.
This is the first time we've ever had action that truly showing our humanity instead of just our mistakes.
It's tempting to chalk it all up to progressiveness run amok. But, according to Borla, at the end of the day, this is not just good for the prisoners and the prison, but society as a whole.
Someday these guys are going to get out. We don't want these guys not having the ability to be successful.
The hope is to prepare inmates for life after they get out, moving away from managing prisoners to creating good neighbors.
How long did it take Norway to get from a 70% recidivism rate to 20%?
Yeah, isn't that amazing? Yeah, they started in the 90s, so it took them a while.
It's
it took them
decades.
a few years.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that they're going to be looking at here is how long is it going to take it to get to that point.
What are the basic principles in Norway's
so
approach?
like we said in the piece, basically the idea is the loss of, so your punishment is the loss of freedom, not the loss of dignity. So essentially once you make it into the prison, it's all about rehabilitation. So in Norway, you have prisoners who are wearing their own clothes, they cook in communal kitchens, they walk about unaccompanied, they play sports,
So they still feel like human beings instead of just inmates.
Exactly. The idea is that life inside should resemble life outside as much as possible. So when they do come out, and 95% of these people are expected to come out at some point, that there won't be such a shock to the system.
And this is a 3-part series. What can we expect in part 2?
Yeah, so in part 2, we're going to be looking at how Salinas Valley is helping prisoners face their trauma, the trauma that they believe landed them in prison to begin with. And then they do that with something called a compassion circle. And so they put all of these prisoners in a big circle and they face their trauma. And the idea there, again, is that if you face your trauma, if you know where that trauma is coming from, then those recidivism rates.
What's going on, you guys? Welcome back. Another episode of Green Lit Gang TV. Much love, much appreciation. Thank you guys so much for checking out the channel today. It means a lot that you are here. Really quick, before we jump into it, let's do the intros. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you for taking the time to watch the video. I genuinely do appreciate it. If you do like the video, go back, check out some of the videos, check out some of the content. Let me know what you think, and hope to see you in the next one. Guys, if you're a returning member to this channel, if you're a returning viewer, someone who's supported the channel for however long, like I said in the last video, if this is your second, third, fourth, 100th, I don't care. Just you guys taking the time out of your day to watch the video, leave a comment, hit the like or subscribe. It means a lot. And that brings us to the last point. If you do like it, hit the like button, hit the comment button, engage. It's a conversation, and smash the subscribe button. Let's go. All right, guys, what's going on? So today's story, we're going to be going back to High Desert State Prison in Susanville, California. It's definitely been a prison that we have visited quite frequently throughout this year while we've been covering cases out of the CDCR. This is back in January of 2020. So we're going to read from the CDCR's main page website about the murder that took place on Richard Prieto. And then we're going to be going into the background on the two alleged attackers. Now, as you can see probably already with the pictures that are up, there are 0 pictures of the victim, Richard Prieto, the one that was killed on D Yard, an exercise yard in High Desert State Prison. I only have pictures of Jose Castillo and Victor Zapien. So we got those pictures up, and then I got background information on both of those guys. They were each Norteno gang members from their respected cities. And we're going to be jumping into their background information in detail. But we're going to start with the CDCR's website, their article on the breakdown, and then we're going to go from there. High Desert State Prison officials are investigating the death of an inmate as a homicide after 2 other inmates attacked him. On January 27th at 2:29 p.m., staff saw inmates Jose R. Castillo and Victor M. Zapien attack inmate Richard Prieto on the facility's D yard, and it turns out that's an exercise yard. Officers immediately responded by issuing a warning shot and using chemical agents to quell the incident. Prieto, 44, suffered multiple puncture wounds to his chest, back, head, and neck. Responding staff transported him to the prison's medical facility and life-saving measures were given. However, a doctor would pronounce Prieto deceased at 3:02 p.m. Officers recovered 2 metal inmate-manufactured weapons at the scene. No staff members were injured in the altercation. 2 metal inmate, it just gives you an idea how brutal these attacks are. Castillo and Zapien have been placed in segregated housing pending an investigation into their involvement. The Lassen County District Attorney's Office is assisting HDSP's Investigative Services Unit. The Office of the Inspector General has been notified. Prieto was received by San Joaquin County on March 31st, 1994. He was sentenced to 22 years for attempted second-degree murder with enhancements of personal use of a dangerous or deadly weapon and inflicting great bodily injury. Jose Castillo, 26 years old, was received from Sonoma County on May 6, 2014. He was sentenced to 6 years for assault with a deadly weapon on a peace officer/fireman, and while in prison was sentenced to an additional 6 years for possession and manufacture of a deadly weapon by a prisoner. Zapien, Victor Zapien, 31 years old, was received by Stanislaus County on July 8, 2014. Zapien was sentenced to life with the possibility of parole for first-degree murder. And that's who we're going to be starting with the background information on him. He's originally from Modesto, California. He is a Norteno gang member. The crime he was involved in was a homicide. Just kind of really gives you an idea on gangs, gang politics, and how things can quickly go south. We're going to be reading from an article back on September 20th, 2012, and then from another article on July 24th of 2014. Remember, this is Victor Zapien. Modesto police, the second of 4 defendants accused of murder, testified in court Wednesday, telling jurors one of the alleged victims in North Modesto double homicide was the first to pull out a gun in what he called a shootout, not related to gangs. This, however, would be completely proven wrong. It was absolutely related to gangs. Authorities say 21-year-old Eric Arguello and 24-year-old Victor Zapien, 33-year-old David Farrell, and Kelly Valle, 28 years old, are responsible for the shooting deaths of Christopher Diaz, 20 years old, of Modesto, and Mark Ochoa, 19, of Ceres, California, shortly after midnight on August 31st, 2009. The shooting occurred in front of Diaz's home in the 2600 block of Maxine Drive, north of Floyd Avenue and west of Coffee Road. Arguello and Valle were involved in a dispute with Diaz and Ochoa earlier that night, Farrell testified. That he had met Diaz once before, and Zapien considered him a friend, so Farrell thought they could settle it without violence. Then Farrell said what he saw was one man run out from the side past him while pulling out what he thought was a gun. He said he didn't recognize the man who approached Zapien and the others. Farrell testified that he heard what sounded like someone racking a semi-automatic handgun. Quote, put a bullet in the chamber, Farrell said on the witness stand. Quote, it makes a distinct sound. As the man was pulling out what looked like a gun, he repeatedly said, quote, what's up? In a threatening manner as if he wanted to start a fight. Farrell told the jury that's when the shooting began. Quote, I just heard gunshots, Farrell testified. In that same short time, Farrell said he pulled out his own gun and fired about 6 shots in the direction of the man who had confronted Zapien. Then the 4 accused men got back in Aguero's red Ford pickup and drove away, heading east on Floyd. A surviving witness who has testified in the trial gave jurors a different account of the deadly confrontation. He said the 4 suspects, including Arguello, Valle, and 2 masked men, held the alleged victims at gunpoint and ordered them to their knees before they opened fire. A forensic pathologist has testified that it's possible Ochoa was shot while he was on his knees, and it's clear Diaz was shot 5 times in the back. The 4 defendants initially were standing trial together, but Farrell's attorney suffered a stroke last month and was not able to continue with the trial. The judge is expected to schedule a new trial for Farrell on October 1st. Remember, this is back in 2012. Farrell was testifying for the defense Wednesday. He said he was at the home celebrating a birthday with Zapien when Arguello and Valle picked them up. Arguello and Valle already had argued with Diaz and Ochoa, but Farrell said he initially didn't know about that. When Arguello and Valle arrived, Farrell went inside his home and grabbed his .40 caliber Glock handgun. Farrell told the jurors he always brought the gun along no matter what, and basically did it in case he was attacked by a group of guys and seriously injured in a bar in 2002. So, 1, he did it in case he was attacked, and because 2, he had been attacked by a group of gentlemen in a bar back in 2002, an incident that he said was not gang-related. So they keep trying to push this narrative, these witnesses that are testifying on the stand, it's not gang-related, it's not gang-related. It was 100% gang-related. I read some other paperwork that said they were from different Norteno sets, that there were some arguments that were going on, and see how it mentioned that how Farrell said that when they picked him up from the birthday party, that had already been there arguing with Diaz and Ochoa. That was absolutely true, that a couple of them had already been there arguing with Diaz and Ochoa. Arguello, the guy that was driving the red Ford pickup, he had already been there, and he basically had screamed at Diaz and Ochoa, I'll be back, in a threatening manner, and they 100% did go back. Continuing, all right? Farrell talking about how it's just a natural reflex. He also testified that he is a Norteno gang member. Quote, I do that every time I leave the house, in reference to grabbing his Glock. Farrell said he believed they were heading to a party at Arguello's family restaurant on Coffee Road. Instead, they drove to Diaz's home on Maxine. When Farrell and Zapien recognized the home, Farrell told the others in the pickup, quote, it's cool, we know these guys. He testified that they got out of the pickup. There was a brief discussion between Diaz and Zapien before the meeting erupted in gunfire. After the shots ended, the 4 men returned to the pickup and drove away. A patrol car pulled behind the pickup after the accused crossed Oakdale Road heading east. The patrol car's lights and sirens turned on and a high-speed pursuit began. Farrell said there was chaos inside the pickup, with everyone shouting to make a turn, stop, or keep going as Arguello drove. Farrell said he worried he would not be able to outrun the pursuing officers if the pickup stopped, so he used his gun to get the patrol car to back off a bit. Gunfire during chase. I just put my hand out the window and shot a couple of times in the air, Farrell testified. He said he never fired his gun at any officer, and the 4 men never discussed or planned shooting at the police. The patrol car backed off, Farrell said, and the pickup stopped, with the 3 passengers running away. Arguello remained in the pickup. Farrell testified that his gun accidentally fired after he jumped a fence and landed on concrete face first. He said he broke his shoulder, which slowed his escape. Police eventually captured the 4 men after a 7-hour manhunt in northeast Modesto. The defendants have been charged with murder, attempted murder, and attempted murder of a police officer. So basically, you got this guy on the stand who's part of the 4 accused of murder, and he's trying to distance himself. He's trying to say that absolutely not, was not gang related, and I only put my gun out and fired in the air when the cops were chasing us. I never pointed it at them. And that possible gunshot when they were closing in, and the cops were closing in, and they say I fired again. Actually, I didn't fire. I jumped a fence. I fell face first on some concrete, and the gun went off again. Don't know if that will fly in court. Actually, I do know it didn't fly in court. They ended up all being convicted, but just kind of see both sides of it as court. This is why court cases play out. This is why you have a defense and why you have a prosecution and why everyone's due a day in court. But it's just interesting reading that version of it because you see how he's trying to downplay everything. Okay, we fast forward a couple years. This is July 24th, 2014. This is after some convictions have already happened, including Victor Zapien, one of our guys in this story. A series man convicted of murder 2 years ago will wait at least another 2 months before he can be sentenced for his role in a North Modesto gang-related shooting. A jury in September 2012 found Kelly Valle, Eric Arguello, and Victor Zapien guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder for the shooting of Christopher Diaz, 20, of Modesto, and Mark Ochoa, 19, of Ceres. Authorities have said the defendants were part of a group of Norteno gang members responsible for the murders. The 3 defendants also were convicted of participating in a criminal street gang and 2 counts of attempted murder. One of those charges stemming from shots fired at a police officer. Remember, that was our guy Farrell testifying that, nope, I wasn't firing at the cops. I was shooting in the air as they were behind me. And when they were chasing me, I jumped a fence, fell down on my face, broke my shoulder, and my gun went off. Arguello and Zapien were each sentenced last month. So in June of 14, our guy Zapien got 172 years to life in prison for the shooting, which resulted in a high-speed police chase in which shots were fired. Valle, 30, was scheduled to be sentenced earlier this month, but now has a new attorney. And of course, he ended up getting life as well. But pretty crazy story there. It was absolutely gang-related. Like I said, they were from different Norteno sets. It wasn't like Norteno versus Sereno. It was different Norteno sets. An argument broke out. And from what I read in the other court papers, the victims, Diaz and Ochoa, when these guys came back in the truck full in the F-150, they basically had told each other, yep, let's get down. And they took their shirts off, getting ready to fight. They didn't have weapons. They did not think it was going to result in a shootout because they were familiar with some of these guys. And all of a sudden, guns get pulled, and it said that, like Ochoa was backing up when he was shot or turned to run. I forget which one got shot in the back, but the evidence suggests that it was 100%, yes, they made them get on their knees, pulled guns. One of them was probably trying to get away. The other one just got shot, and it did not go down as Farrell was trying to say, that it was just, wrong place, wrong time, totally unexpected, and I didn't even know what happened. No, there was a little bit more planned than that. Okay, so our second alleged attacker, Jose Castillo. This is an article from November of 2013. A 20-year-old Santa Rosa man wanted on gang and weapons charges led police on a chase through the heart of the city early Sunday before authorities stopped him by forcing a crash that sent his silver Chevy Monte Carlo spinning. Quote, those cops, they never got off his butt. It was pretty cool. This guy was just drifting. It was just like watching the world's wildest police chases right outside my house, said Josh Vendrick, who watched the whole thing from his 4th Street apartment. Police used what is called a pit maneuver or pursuit intervention technique to finally stop the suspect after leading Officer Brett Seawee and later other officers on a fast-speed chase along some of the city's main streets near downtown. The incident began around 1:16 a.m. when Seawee attempted to stop Jose Rafael Castillo at Ashbury and Lee Streets on a traffic violation. Sergeant Lisa Bonillat said in a release, Castillo took off when Seawee flashed his lights. He raced along Brookwood Avenue, Pierce Street, 4th Street, 13th Street, and McDonald Avenue as speeds reached up to 50 miles per hour, ignoring stop signs and red lights. Quote, officers continued pursuing him and ultimately used a pursuit intervention technique to stop the suspect in the 1200 block of College Avenue. Boyniat reported the suspect vehicle changed direction and rammed Officer Seawee's patrol vehicle head-on. Another patrol vehicle was used to block the suspect's door to prevent his escape. Castillo, a documented gang participant, was treated at a local hospital for minor injuries and was booked into the Sonoma County Jail on numerous charges, including felony evading a police officer, assault with a deadly weapon, and warrants for gang and weapons charges and obstructing an officer. What's interesting about Castillo is that he initially only gets sentenced to 6 years, in 2014. But again, remember, he picks up an additional 6 years for possession of a manufacture of a deadly weapon by a prisoner. So when Prieto is killed, if he doesn't pick up any more time, Jose Castillo is home. Jose Castillo he's back home. He's back out on the streets. He's never even there when this attack happens. Now, reading some Facebook posts, I couldn't confirm it, obviously, but reading some Facebook posts, it seemed like this was orders that came down to clean house. I could not verify if Richard Prieto was a Norteno gang member, but from multiple posts, it seems like he possibly may have been, and this was like a cleaning of house. And Castillo and Zapien were tasked with doing so. But anyway, there you guys have it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And until next time, you already know what it is. Peace.